Hi, my name is Elle. I'm a cross-stitch artist and designer here on TikTok, and today I'm going to be answering Cheyenne's question. I would love to see a video on what tools and maybe software you use for marking and keeping up with your patterns. So I've been stitching for 24 years now, and for 23 of those years, I was a die-hard paper and highlighter girl, and I swore up and down that I would die a paper and highlighter girl. Y'all, meet the pattern that broke me. Lord Libidin's free epic Pokemon All Generations cross-stitch pattern updated. It is about 5 feet wide, about 6 feet tall. It is 200 pages of pattern. It includes 798,000 stitches when it's done, and it will take me literal years to do. I did the first 2 pages with paper and highlighter, and it was awful. And I realized I was not going to be able to continue doing this for 198 more pages because it was printed so small. I could barely read some of the symbols. Some of the symbols are very, very similar to each other. I needed to be able to zoom in. I know I don't look it, but I'm 34 and my eyes aren't great anymore, and I have to wear glasses when I stitch now. So when I say, like, this pattern was so tiny that even with my glasses on, I was truly having trouble distinguishing the different symbols and stuff. And there was no way to blow the pattern up and make it any bigger because it was already 200 pages long. It was already massive. So when I came across this pattern and I decided that I wanted to do it and I was committed to doing it and I already bought all the supplies for it, and I had sat down and got through 2 pages of it, I couldn't just abandon it. And so I was like, all right, everybody has been telling me for years that I need to be trying one of these app pattern, for markups or for keeping your patterns online. So I actually tried both Pattern Keeper and Markup RXP. So Pattern Keeper is for Android and Markup RXP is for iOS systems. The reason I tried both is because I didn't have an Android, but I have an iPhone. And so I was like, I'm going to try Markup RXP first. And so I tried Markup RXP. There were some things that I didn't like about it. I did not like that it is a yearly fee. You do have to pay the fee every year. And it was like $20, I want to say. So like, it wasn't a small amount of money. It's not a huge amount of money, but it wasn't a small amount of money, particularly because like this type of software, once you have it, they're like, what are they going to be adding to it that I'm going to be getting $20 of value from every single year? Like, how are they going to be improving this software? It's not like a game where they're adding new levels and they're building new stuff and like whatever. So it's pretty much like once they're done and like they have their product, it seems like there's not really much that they're going to be doing to that. And then on top of that, I actually had a really hard time putting in this big of a pattern into Markup RXP. It actually didn't accept all of the symbols and the colors. And so I was going to have to spend hours and hours and hours rebuilding part of this pattern in order to import it properly to Markup RXP. I have since found out that there is another version of the pattern that has been condensed, and apparently Markup RXP doesn't have a problem with that version of it, but I didn't know that at the time that I was doing this testing. What I did like about Markup RXP is there was a lot of statistics tools and things like that. So if you really like to see like how fast you're stitching and like there was like, how many stitches a day you're doing and stuff like that, they had a lot of like statistics and stuff. And I didn't like do a super deep dive into it, so I couldn't tell you for sure like what all was included, but I do know it has a pretty robust statistics portion of the app, which I thought was really cool. So at that point, I remembered that I have a Kindle Fire from like a decade ago. I don't know, I probably got it like 8 or 9 years ago at this point. And I had completely forgotten that I had this. As you can see, it's in a big bumper case because originally it was like my toddlers were playing with it, and they're not toddlers anymore. My older one's about to turn 10. So I was like, Amazon runs Android, right? No, I did have to jailbreak it, which did take a little bit of doing, but it is possible. And so I was able to get the Android store on my Kindle Fire. And with that, I was able to get Pattern Keeper. So what I like about Pattern Keeper is that it is a one-time fee and it's only $10. So it's cheaper for the one-time fee for Pattern Keeper than the yearly price for Markup RXP. So once you have it, you're done. So I did do the trial of both of these before I committed to either of them. So Markup RXP, you can download from your Google Drive, your patterns and stuff. They pop right in there. It gives you the option to be making sure that all of your colors are right before it imports fully and stuff like that. So I like all of that. It does not really have a statistics portion. If you are working in the app, on the day of, it'll tell you how many stitches you've done that day. It'll also tell you how much percentage of the pattern you have stitched so far as you're keeping track of it. But if you wait until the next day, it resets and you can't go back and be like, well, how many stitches did I do yesterday? I forgot. So I kind of wish that it had a little bit more of tracking, but other than that, that's really my only big complaint with them. Oh, I take that back. There is a second complaint. When you are importing the pattern, I use color blending on a number of my patterns. A lot of them use color blending. When you are importing, it does not automatically detect that it's a color blended pattern. So it'll only take the first color of the two that are side by side. So as you are importing, you need to tell it, hey, this pattern is color blended, and manually add the second color to that line. And then it does it and it's just fine. And it blends the color properly and it shows up. And in your little sidebar thing where it keeps track of all the colors that you still have to do, it'll show you hey, this is a color blend and you need to add these two colors together when you're stitching it. But you do have to remember to check your sheet that you get with your pattern against this as you're importing, especially if you are using patterns from a designer that uses color blending in some of their patterns. So that's really my only big concern. I did not check Markup RXP and how that handles color blending because I was only concerned with this big tapestry piece. I didn't know how much I was going to like using these softwares to keep track of my stitching when I had the trial for Markup RXP. So I don't have any information on how Markup RXP handles color blending when you're importing the pattern. So maybe, hopefully somebody in the comments can let me know how Markup RXP handles it, or if it handles it well or anything. But anyway, that's what I use. I personally like Pattern Keeper. It made more sense for me. I know a lot of other people really like Markup RXP. Those are the only two that I personally have tested. So I hope that helps, and have a great day and happy cross stitching.